Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today I'm going to be continuing my top 50 favourite albums of 2016 by looking at the top 25, well 25 to 11 in this video. So let us just get straight into this and begin with number 25, which we have The Glowing Man by Swans. Now this album, while not as masterfully executed as an album like To Be Kind, which I really see as Swan's masterpiece, to be honest, coming out back in 2014 and receiving a ton of critical acclaim. I think it was just about in my top 10 of 2014 as well. This, The Glowing Man, it is a nice end to Swans, well certainly as we know them. All we really know is that Michael Gira, the man behind Swans, is ending the current incarnation after touring in 2017. The thing with this album is that I would say it has more of a focus on, say, non-lyrical vocals. Some vocals which almost sound like, I don't know, some form of like meditative chanting, and there are certainly some moments I find that do drag on a bit. I mean, it's another 2-hour record, the third, fourth in a row, I think third maybe, and you know, 2 hours is hard to fill. To Be Kind did a surprisingly excellent job at doing so, but this album I do feel didn't quite need to be 2 hours, and it does drag in parts, but the moments that are brilliant, such as the Cloud songs, are certainly fantastic. At number 24, we have A Voice of the Void by Ancients, a band I've been listening to since their debut, Heart of Oak, in 2013. I was pretty impressed by them. It's just some really tight progressive metal, honestly, with a big atmospheric sound to it, and there isn't much else to say. At number 23, we have Dystopia by Megadeth. Now, after Super Collider, I'm sure we all remember the shitstorm that went down for Super Collider back in 2014, I think. Wow, it was a long time ago. Now, I was one of the few kind of defenders. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10. Maybe nowadays, like, I consider it a 6, I guess. Though it's been a long time since I've listened to Super Collider, I've got to be honest. So I really wasn't sure going to Dystopia what the hell to expect. But honestly, this is one of the most refreshing and best Megadeth albums since Endgame. Honestly, it really is one of the best in recent memory. It's an extremely enjoyable thrash record, and Kiko Loureiro, I've never been quite sure how to say his name, absolutely slays on guitar here. Maybe he's not quite Marty Friedman, but he's certainly up there. At number 22, we have Fires Within Fires by Neurosis. This is a band who I've never really found disappointed me, and it's another killer record from these just post-metal legends. They have always been one of the pioneering bands in post-metal, and they still continue to be so today. This is hard-hitting, it is heavy as hell. I mean, it's maybe a tad short, it's only like a 14-minute record with like 5 songs on it. There's bands who release EPs that are longer, but even so, you can't really complain with just the quality of music that is on this disc. At number 21, an album I'm sure many thought would be higher up in my list. This is Sorceress by Opus. So Opus and the whole little 70s prog phase we've had the last 3 albums, starting with Heritage back in 2011, Pale Communion 2014, and now 2016 with Sorceress. And what there's nothing more that I love than 70s prog. I'm as big a 70s prog nut as you can find. I'm still a bit on the fence of whether this genre is really playing to Opus' strengths. Opus, when it comes to the progressive death metal, or just no band who gets even close to them. Blackwater Park, Ghost Reveries are the 2 finest examples of the genre, just by a long shot. And this, I would say, is their best since Watershed. But it does have the odd dud song on it. There's the Indian-inspired song, which I can't remember the name of now, which I was not a big fan of. And well, it does have its moments. There's just something that feels a tiny bit off. There's something that just stops me revisiting it as much as I do other Opus albums. Sure, I'll continue to listen to it through the years, but so far none of these 3 albums have really clicked with me in the same way as Opus' older stuff, but still, I mean, that's not to take away. It's still number 21 on the list, and it's still a really strong record. There's just something that doesn't quite resonate with me. At number 20, we have Act 5 by the Deer Hunter. This was a weird and unexpected surprise. It's a prog band from, I think, the US, who I was totally unaware of until this record came out. I kind of describe them as, I definitely hear a bit of Spock's beard in there, you know, that type of Neal Morse vibe with some catchy choruses, but they have so in a way of instrumentation, I guess, it's so interesting. They seem to throw like every instrument to the wall, and yet it all sticks, which is surprising. Okay, maybe it's a tiny bit long. It's like 78 minutes, and at times there's a couple of songs where it's like, but it's a concept album, and tracks like The Revival and The Most Cursed of Hands really show this to be one of the most accomplished concept albums of 2016. At number 19, we have The Evil Divide by Death Angel. There isn't much to say about this, but it's just 45 minutes of really solid thrash. I liked their last album, The Dream Calls for Blood, and that was pretty high on my 2013 list, I think. This album, The Evil Divide, just continues to show this being one of the most consistent bands in thrash. Death Angel never really disappoint. They just seem to be releasing great album after great album, and in a classic thrash, that's always going to be fun to hear. At 18, we have Hunted by Chemists. I'm a sucker for a good Doom record. My lists are usually full of quite a lot of Doom records, but this list, maybe not so much, until we get really to Chemists. There are a lot of bands doing this style really well at the moment, but of course, as usual, there's always a lot of Sabbath clones. Now, Chemists are certainly more of that sort of pallbearer, yob ilk of bands. The bands who really, well, they still maintain that core Doom sound. They really bring something fresh to the table. This is as ominous and slow and, you know, sludgy as you want from a Doom album, but with some really interesting riffs, some great vocals to it, and it just manages to stand out and just transcends the other Doom bands that you get out there, and is definitely in that upper echelon of Doom. At number 17, we have The Similitude of a Dream by the Neal Morse Band. Neal Morse is one of those, I love the guy, but man, he has bored me to tears for a few of his albums. His solo albums in particular, some of his stuff with Transatlantic even recently, as like Kaleidoscope. I've loved him with Flying Colours, but his solo stuff wasn't gripping me until he started the Neal Morse Band. When The Grand Experiment came out, I sat up and I paid attention. It was good. In fact, it sounded like some of the best stuff he'd done since Spock's Beard, and suddenly it was announced he was going to be releasing a double concept album, harkening back, well, it seems on paper, harkening back to, you know, Snow type things, like his work with Spock's Beard, and I was intrigued. I was apprehensive, but intrigued. And wow, this is something, definitely. This just feels alive, it's ambitious, it's utterly tremendous. I saw them perform this album in its entirety live a few weeks ago at the Islington Academy, and that was a particularly stunning performance. He's just got such a tight band together. I mean, Mike Portnoy on drums, he's been my favourite drummer of all time for a long time now. The guitarist he's got, who also sings, is great. The keyboardist, the bassist, he's got this really, really tight band together. It's a strong concept based on the Pilgrim's Progress. And at times, some of the songs get a little slow and a little gaudy for my taste. I'm not the most Christian person who I've ever known, certainly. So that puts me off the odd part, but generally, this is... I'd certainly say it's better live than in the studio, and I'm looking forward to when he releases a live album, inevitably, of him playing this, since he played the entirety of it live. Yeah, one to really check out for a prog fan. At number 16, we have Kodama by Alceste. This is the best band in France, in my opinion. There aren't many great bands in France, but there's a few. Alceste, to me, are really the pinnacle. And with Kodama, they've moved away from the sound they had established in their last album, which is called Shelter, which was kind of a clean vocal-driven shoegaze record. And a lot of fans, there's a bit of backlash against it because Alcest, if you don't know, are originally kind of an atmospheric black metal band, you know, that sort of Agalloch vein. And so they went clean and shoegaze, and a lot of fans weren't too happy. So here, I think, with Catatonia, I've got a bit of a compromise record. This, to me, seems to take as much from Shelter as it does from Le Voyage de l'Âme, which was one of their older, more black metal albums. It's as atmospheric as you want from an Alcest album. Maybe sometimes, I wouldn't say the crescendos are maybe as great as they've sometimes done before, and you can maybe hear a little bit of compromise in the sound with the creative direction and some of the fan base. But either way, this is just a really remarkable record. Number 15, we have Air by Astronaut. See, when I'm putting together these lists, one of my absolute favourite things about doing it is that I'll come across bands that I've never even remotely heard of before, but I've just, you hear their albums around when I start doing research on the internet, and I end up knocking my socks off. This was a great example of that. This is, how to describe this, in some regards it's proggy, in others it's post-rocky, other times it's almost got some black metal like blast beats. I kind of describe it, I guess, as a proggy death heaven with a hint of anathema in there in some of the vocals. They're quite a distinct band and they have a really strong sound and a strong identity to them. They're certainly one to watch, and the bands I need to delve into their back catalogue and see what else they're capable of, because they impressed the hell out of me with Air. At number 14, we have The Fall of Hearts by Catatonia. And what I really liked Catatonia's last album, Dead End Kings, it's an album that, I don't know, I just don't find myself listening to as much as I used to when it came out. I tend to, if I'm in Catatonia mood, I tend to lean towards their earlier stuff, or maybe something like Viva Emptiness if I want more of that gothic metal stuff. But this is an album that's really reinvigorated my love for modern Catatonia. It still has the charms of their classic gothic metal, with loads of ambience though, and atmosphere, and just beauty from Jonas Rensk's vocals. Yeah, good album. At number 13, we have an album that, like Astronaut's Air, is a little difficult to describe. This is 4 by Black Mountain. You see, from the opening riff of the opening track, Mothers of the Sun, it's easy to just think, oh, they're just going to be another fuzzy Caius wannabe. And then you hear the stunning female vocals come in. The album mixes between both female and male vocals with wonderful effect. And you hear these incredible soundscapes, also then mixed with the fuzzy riffs, and it makes it one of the most interesting listens of the year. You never quite know where the album's going to go, and it never really ceases to surprise or amaze. It's a consistent album all the way through, and at the perfect time of 45 minutes as well. There's none quite like Black Mountain's 4, and it's an experience everyone should really have. At number 12, we have a band who, they always make my list. This is predictable as hell. This is Rival Sons with Hollow Bones. I've been talking to these guys about these guys pretty much since the channel began, honestly, and they're bands who, in my opinion, have never failed to deliver. But coming from the unbelievably strong Great Western Valkyrie back in 2014, it was going to be hard for them to top it, and I don't think they quite do. They don't quite manage. But this is, just because Rival Sons don't exceed their last album doesn't mean they don't deliver one of the strongest rock albums of the year, with just a wonderful dose of classic rock. I'm sure most people have heard them, and they don't deviate too much on Hollow Bones, but they do enough to make this album still feel distinct from the others. It's one of the great things about Rival Sons. They're not a band who just releases the same album over and over again, but they really try and make every album that bit different, and Hollow Bones is no exception. At number 11, the final album for this video, we have Only Ghosts by Red Fang. It's one of those things when doing this list that, some albums I'm particularly excited about, really hyped to hear, and other ones I've just kind of heard around, and I decided I'll give them a listen just to be thorough, to make sure my list is as accurate as it can possibly be. I don't want to end up discovering an album from 2016 that becomes, top 10 and not have it in these video series, so I like to be thorough in my research. And Red Fang, I remember listening to Whales and Leeches in 2013 and thinking it was a decent stoner rock album, but I hadn't really listened to them since. I'd kind of forgotten about them, so I put this on as a background album, and then I had to sit back and really just completely focus on this. It really took me aback. It's the best stoner rock album of the year by far, and it has that catchiness of like the best Queens of the Stone Age tracks with the riffing and some of the harsher vocals, and I don't know, if like a sludge metal band, something like Baroness or something. It's a must listen. I was really, really surprised by what Red Fang were capable of with Only Ghosts. So this has been from 25 to 11. Please check out the top 10 video as well, coming soon. This has been the Album Man. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.